So in my last video, I got a lot of people who found my take on builds, runes, and champions to be quite controversial. Basically, my take was that all of those things are pretty irrelevant and unimportant when it comes to your improvement journey overall. The advice I gave to you is that you should just copy some builds and roll with that. There were quite a lot of mixed opinions on these. Some people thought build was important, some people thought champions were important, some thought both were very important and you should put a lot of attention on them. Some could see my point but didn't think that I articulated it well enough. So in this video, my goal is to clarify what I meant when I said that worrying about builds and champions were not important factors in your improvement and may even hinder your progress. Because I agree, I could have probably gotten this point across much better. I would love to hear if you think this more in-depth explanation makes more sense and if you can agree with this take or not. The whole point of the 80/20 video was to shed light on the topic that some things are more important to focus on for your improvement than others, and encourage you to put your focus on the 20%ers that will yield the most results. I lumped builds and champion picks into the less important category, a part of the small details that will get you minimal results and might even hinder your growth. If you want to see large improvements, focus on the 20%ers instead of putting energy into things with less effect. Let's first talk champions. Champions are a very enticing topic because it's cool to think that you can just pick the perfect champ for a composition and win because of that, or that champion win rates and counterpicks matter a lot in a game's outcome. People think that you need to have a well-rounded composition to win the game. You need frontline and damage spread and poke and shields and engage and all the things that fit whatever you have in your head of the perfect comp. I promise you that this really isn't the case, especially the lower elo you are. I one-tricked Talia to Challenger, and I picked her in basically every game no matter what, unless she was banned or taken from me. I vividly remember picking her on a comp that was full AP already and still won the game, and that was in Challenger elo. There are plenty of one-tricks that are in Challenger and maintain it year-round, so I don't think the argument that you need a good pick to play in high elo really holds up. If T1 can pick full damage 0 frontline comps and win professional games, what makes you think you need frontline to win your games? I get that this is an extreme example, and sure, a comp can make a game much easier to play, I won't deny that. But my point is that if you're obsessed with filling the perfect slot for your team every game, you won't actually get into refining your decision making in each game because 1, you'll be so spread out in style that it will be hard to be consistent with your learning, and 2, you'll be constantly creating this narrative in your head about how games should play out optimally in a certain composition rather than accepting the messy nature of your games and figuring out how you can win the hard ones. Yes, having a well-rounded champion pool is great. 2 or 3 champions are all you really need to have a decent pick in any scenario. My worry is with people that are picking 5 or more champions to fit scenarios in their games just to fit compositions. The second part is about win rates. Occasionally, there becomes the off champ that really struggles in the meta, and if you're playing a champion like this, it's likely you'll drop some LP. But you know what goes beyond win rates? Good gameplay. If you're missing skill shots, piloting your champion wrong, or heavily misplaying the matchup, complaining about win rates doesn't do anything because you're not maximizing the strength of the champion anyways. How many times have you expected for a matchup to be easy and then get rolled? How many times have you expected a matchup to be hard and then smash the enemy? You must play a champion to a baseline level before a matchup standard becomes relevant. And when you know a champion so well, you can push the boundaries and alter perspectives on matchups because you're a higher caliber player. I think the most important point of champion picks is just you picking something that you enjoy. I one-tricked Talia because I just love playing the champ that much. And yes, I like to experiment and play other champs at times, but even if the champion is garbage and considered terrible by everyone, I would still play it because it brings me so much joy, and I would love to figure out how I can make this champion that is quote-unquote bad into the best it possibly can be. And it goes the other way too. If you're playing a champ that you don't like just because it has a high win rate, you're not going to get the results from the high win rate because you just don't enjoy playing it, and that's just how it's going to be. Now let's talk runes and itemization. Having the correct runes and items for your champion in a specific matchup or game will 100% make the game easier. I am in no way implying that you can run whatever runes you want and builds that you want and still win games just as easily, because that isn't the case at all. I recently had my own experience where I swapped to running Electrocute instead of First Strike on Talia, and it made playing the game way easier and I felt a whole lot better. Runes and items do serve an important role in our success in a game. The problem I have with runes and items is once again the people that obsess over them so much that perfecting their build becomes more important than perfecting their gameplay. Gameplay should nearly always be the first thing you consider when trying to improve, because even with a good rune and build, if you aren't playing well, then you're going to lose the game anyways. I think the most important thing with runes and builds is understanding the identity of a particular setup so that you can properly play to it. If you know why you're running a particular setup and know when to alter it, then you should be in a good position regarding them. My whole point here is that overemphasizing champions, runes, and itemization is a scary path to go down. It can easily turn into a slippery slope where all you do is blame champion stats or wrong builds for why you didn't win a particular game, when the fact is that it's far more likely that you are losing the game from gameplay mistakes. I still think that a large majority of your time should be spent on getting into the actual details of your decision making and gameplay. There is nothing that will replace that. But you do need to know what build you're running and why you're running it just as much as you need to understand a champion's identity. Just make sure that you don't lose yourself in the process.